welcome to the Huntsman World Senior Games Active Life. My name is Kyle Case, and I'll be your host on this amazing journey as we attempt to help you get the most out of your life. Joining me in the studio today is my co-pilot, Jeff Harding. Jeff, how are you today?
I'm great, Kyle. How are you?
I'm good. It's always, Jeff, a pleasure to be with you.
Always, and what a beautiful day here in southern Utah.
It truly is. It truly is. It's actually a little cooler than it has been.
Well, it's
We're
warmer.
having a cold snap.
But we're on the warming trend, so it's in the mid-90s today instead of the low 90s. So yeah, we're right in there.
It's on its way out. But hey, Jeff, I keep hearing rumors that there's some kind of a big soccer tournament going on somewhere. Have you heard anything about that at all?
I think I might have seen some posts on Facebook or something on Google that suggested there might be a big sporting event going on.
Some kind of a soccer event.
Something, yeah. Something involving the foot. I know that.
Well, of course, as we know, the FIFA World Cup is happening right now, even as we speak in Brazil. And it's kind of a big deal. Are you a soccer fan,
No,
Jeff?
I coached a soccer team when my daughter was really little, and that's the extent of my soccer experience.
So
one season.
So you're a soccer dad.
I'm a soccer dad and a neophyte, yes.
Well, excellent. Well, of course, soccer, as we know, or football, as everyone else in the world calls it, is kind of a big deal. It's the world's most popular sport. And I, Jeff, like you, I have to admit, in full disclosure, I'm not necessarily a rabid soccer fan.
I can honestly say that the only time I've heard you mention the word soccer around the office is about our soccer event.
Right,
so, yeah.
right, yeah. I don't know that I've ever even watched a Major League Soccer match in its entirety. I've been aware of them going on, and when Real Salt Lake is up, I hear a little bit about that, but I don't really follow soccer. I don't really follow the professional leagues, but I am attracted to the big events.
Yeah.
Every 4 years when the Olympics come, I make sure I watch the Olympics, and every 4 years when the World Cup is around, I try to at least be aware of what's going on in the world of sport. And this year, I think it's worth noting, kind of has some special significance for me because the World Cup is happening in Brazil.
And you have a connection to Brazil.
I do. As you know, I lived in Brazil for 2 years, and I've actually seen firsthand a few of the stadiums that they are playing in, including the Maracanã in Rio. Thank you. But that great big soccer stadium in Rio, that's kind of the
hub.
The hub, if you will. I've actually been inside that stadium, and it's awesome.
Very cool. Very cool.
And I am, as red-blooded American as anybody, I love to see Old Glory wave. I love to see the red, white, and blue. But I also have to admit that there's a special place in my heart for the, the green, the gold, and the blue of Brazil as well.
So all we can do is hope for you that those two teams don't play themselves in the finals, because then you'll be a split personality. There were two of you.
It'd be tough. It'd be tough. The first time that I really got involved with the World Cup was when I was in Brazil. It was in 1994, and the United States hosted the World Cup that year. And you probably won't remember this, but I remember it because it was very, very vivid to me. Brazil played the U.S. in the United States on the 4th of July,
and probably beat him.
Pretty much dominated.
Yeah.
And that was brought up over and over and over to me. So I have a very clear recollection of that.
Yeah, well, I bet. Yeah.
Anyway, I think that it's fair to say that the FIFA World Cup is a big deal. I think it's a big deal. Just a couple of stats for you, just to let you know some of the numbers surrounding the World Cup. Did you know that they estimate that they will sell around 3 million tickets to the games?
That is mind-boggling.
That's a lot of tickets.
That is a lot of tickets.
That's hard to believe that there are that many people that can get into those stadiums, but there's 14 stadiums or so, and they all hold tens of thousands, but 3 million tickets. They estimate that the economic impact on Brazil will be somewhere between 3 and 14 billion.
B with a B.
With a B. Now, that's a big range, 3 to 14, but regardless, it's a lot of money coming into
That's a lot of bucks.
Coming into the country for sure. And this particular World Cup is interesting because of the number of goals that are being scored. In the first 16 matches, they have scored 49 goals, which is an average of 3.06 goals per game.
Some goalies are getting chewed out right now.
I would think so. By comparison, at this same point in 2010, the tournament had averaged 1.56 goals. So they're scoring almost twice as many goals per game.
Wow, a lot of offense.
So a lot of stuff going on. And like I said, I think it's fair to say that the FIFA World Cup is the biggest event of its kind in the world.
Far and away the biggest.
But Jeff, did you know that the Huntsman World Senior Games is the biggest event of its kind in the world?
Actually, I did know that, Kyle.
I think I thought you might. You might have heard that.
But it's still amazing, yeah.
It is. It's the largest annual multi-sport event in the entire world for athletes age 50 and over.
Well, let me ask you this, Kyle. Is there any subset or any sport in the games that stands out as being the biggest of its kind?
Great question. Within the Huntsman World Senior Games, which is the largest event of its kind in the world, we also host the largest single senior softball tournament in the world.
Wow, that's impressive. That is impressive.
It really is. And we're lucky enough to have with us in the studio Mr. Bill Given, who has been the director of the Huntsman World Senior Games softball tournament really from the beginning. So welcome, Bill.
Thank you. I'm pleased to be here.
Well, thank you for being with us. Thanks for taking time out of your day. Bill is also the Utah State Director for NSA, which I think stands for the National Softball Association. Is that correct?
That's correct, yes.
And he has been the recipient of many national awards, not the least of which is his induction into the Huntsman World Senior Games Hall of Fame.
Yay, Bill!
Yeah, so we're really excited to have Bill with us today. And Bill, we want to talk with you and get into some of your experiences at the Huntsman World Senior Games, hear some of your stories, and learn from your experience, and maybe get you to divulge some of the secrets of your involvement with the games and how you've helped it grow to the largest event of its kind. But before we get into that, we want to learn a little bit more about Bill Given. Bill, have you always been involved in sports, even as a kid?
Even as a kid. I've been involved in sports. I played football. I ran track. And in my later years, played softball through the LDS Church, and actually went to the all-church tournament twice.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
In the old days.
That's kind of a big deal.
That's almost like the soccer tournament. It's almost like FIFA's World Cup.
The largest event of its kind in the world,
That's
right?
Yeah.
So when you played that, you said you went to it twice?
Yes.
Playing softball?
Playing softball.
So where was it held when you guys went to it? Was it in Salt Lake City?
Salt Lake City, always. Yeah,
Wow.
It was always in Salt Lake City.
Wow. And teams came from all around the world or around the United States? Or
basically all over the United States.
Mostly the States.
Yeah.
So what was your position when you played?
I pitched.
You pitched?
I pitched.
Now, this is slow pitch or fast pitch?
Oh, it's slow pitch.
Yeah, so underhand.
Yeah.
So still accuracy is a big deal. And were you one of those pitchers that kind of put the little backspin on the ball?
Always tried to.
You always tried to. Whether you succeeded or not is open for debate, but you always tried to.
Exactly.
That's fantastic. So so you played a lot of sports as a kid. So you said football, you did track and field. What were your track and field events, by the way?
I mean, I know it's hard to believe when people see me today, but I was the second fastest in my high school in the 100 and the 220.
Oh, really? So you were a sprinter?
Those were not meters. Remember, those were
yards.
Yards and 220.
Wow.
220 yards.
Wow. Well, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So did you advance beyond your school? Did you ever go to state meets or regional meets or?
Oh, we were always in the Los Angeles City school finals, and that was an incredible track meet. You just can't believe the amount of people that came to
that would be almost as big as a state meet somewhere else. I mean, there's a lot of people in that area.
A lot of people, and a lot of incredible track athletes in the city of Los Angeles.
Who then go all over the country to play sports and run track.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, that's cool. So after high school was over, did you jump right into softball and kind of stay with that? Or, I mean, what happened with sports after, as you're growing up?
I probably laid off sports for a long time. In fact, when I went to college, I decided that was more important than playing any athletics.
Really?
So
getting good grades?
Trying to get good grades anyway. And so I laid off for a long time, and it wasn't probably until my late 20s before I got into softball real well and became active in that sport.
Wow. And then you kind of just stayed with it for years?
For a long time.
Wow.
Yeah.
Fun. Very good.
This is The Active Life, brought to you by the Huntsman World Senior Games on Fox News, 1450 AM and 96.7 FM. Bill, what made you want to bring softball to Southern Utah?
I was the athletic director at different levels in the LDS Church, and I was approached by some people in Salt Lake City that claimed that this would be an ideal place to play softball, And when there were small leagues in St. George at the time, but very small. And so we approached the city and the recreation department, and it just kind of clicked, and it absolutely grew incredibly big.
That is not an understatement. It's huge here in southern Utah. It really is.
So when you started, when you actually started with softball in St. George in an official capacity, you actually weren't really working for the city at the time.
If I told you that I was getting $15 for every team I brought into the city of St. George to play softball, that was my first pay.
And that was your motivation.
Yeah, that was really the motivation. Yeah.
So you almost started really as a volunteer.
Yes.
You know, today that would be a lot of money.
Yeah, I'm sure.
So you approached the city and said, hey, everybody wants to come down to St. George and play. And so they said, well, let's give it a try. Were there facilities really available at the time?
They were very limited. We had what was called Snow Park at the time that had really just 3 diamonds in all of St. George. And our first tournament, if my memory serves me correctly, we had 12 teams coming to the tournament, and we were worried sick that we could pull it off.
Wow.
And it grew from that.
So do you remember what year that was? That's been a little while ago.
Seems like to me it was around 1979, 1980.
Okay. So that was kind of St. George's first taste of softball, and as you said, it has definitely grown since then. The tournaments that take place here nowadays definitely, on average, have many more teams than 12.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. So that was kind of your start with softball with the city, and I know that you did that for years with the city of St. George. Tell us a little bit about how you got involved with the Huntsman World Senior Games and kind of the story of how that started.
Well, it was a natural progression because I was involved in softball, and the Huntsman Games, I don't believe the first year they had softball, but I believe it was, I'm really testing my memory, but I believe 1988 was our first softball that we ever held at the Huntsman Senior Games, and I was just the fit for it. I mean, I was that person that was already involved, and of course my wife was at that time was a city council person.
Okay.
And she was 110% behind the Huntsman World Senior Games, and so there wasn't much doubt in my mind that I was going to be involved.
in one way or another, you were going to be involved in the Huntsman World Senior Games. And I think it's worth noting that Bill's wife, Mona, truly was a champion and continues to be, to this day, an incredible champion of the Huntsman World Senior Games. And during her time on the city council, she was just highly instrumental in helping the games get off the ground and get started. And later on, for those who don't know, she came on board as a full-time staffer for the games and really helped direct the Huntsman World Senior Games through an incredible growth period. And so we owe a lot to Mona and Bill as well. As he says, he was kind of drug along at the beginning, but jumped right in and helped make this event happen.
And you have to know that it was such a different thing to start dealing with athletes over the age of 50 and in softball program. And it was exciting. I mean, it was something that none of us had ever seen before until that happened.
So at the beginning stages of that, how did you recruit 50 and over teams? There weren't a lot of leagues, I would guess, out at that time.
You know, I am not sure how the recruiting went because I was basically just coming in after the teams had signed up.
Okay.
And so I wasn't involved in recruiting, so I'm not sure how that went.
Do you remember, and I know this is asking a lot, but do you remember how many teams you had that first year at the games?
My mind says we had 8.
Really?
And there were no brackets. I mean, all 8 teams, regardless of age, played.
They just played each other.
Played on the 3 diamonds.
Yeah. One bracket.
Yeah.
Wow, it's worth noting, from such humble beginnings, the great oak tree grows. But this year, we're anticipating that we will reach probably soon our participation cap in softball, which is 330 teams. So to start out at 8, and now here we are 2.5 decades later with over 330 teams is a pretty incredible undertaking.
You know, Bill, you just heard what this year's estimation is going to be, and we've already talked that it's the largest. Why do you think this event has become what it's become? What was the impetus for the growth?
I absolutely think it's because we treated them as customers, and we always looked at them as the customer is basically always right, and we always listened, and we made considerable amount of changes from input from our teams, and it always pleased them that we were listening. Whether it was in those days, it wasn't because of emails or anything; it was phone calls and letters and some of them, complained about things, but we listened to them.
Yeah.
And we made those changes, and every place we went, it got to the point where I could be in Florida, and step in an elevator, and they would see my shirt, and they would start to ask about the Huntsman World Senior Games, especially softball.
Yeah.
At
Wow.
that time.
Wow.
And what they had heard about their fields and about the tournament was just incredible.
And what Bill says continues to be, the goal that we strive for today. Sometimes we fumble and we drop the ball, but we really work hard, even today, to try to meet the needs of our customers, as you say, and try to make it a very player-friendly tournament. And Bill laid the foundation. And not only did Bill lay the foundation with that in softball, and that has carried over into other sports, but it's worth noting that Bill is still involved in the softball tournament at the Huntsman World Senior Games.
Yes, for the past 2 or 3 or 4 years, I've been the assistant director. One of the assistant directors.
And before that, for a long time, you were the director. So you're just kind of taking it slower, just breathing a little bit during the tournament instead of having all the pressure.
I believe I was tournament director for 25 years.
Yeah.
That sounds right to me.
I actually did a little research, and you are correct.
Very good.
25 years. So thank you for your time. I mean, let me publicly say that it's been I think it's been a joy to you, but it's been a lot of work along the way.
It is. There is no way that anybody would keep themselves involved in a program that they didn't enjoy. And there was a lot of work, absolutely a lot of work.
Sure.
One of the stories that I keeps popping in my mind is we've had very few rainouts in this Huntsman. I mean, complete rainouts. Now we've had to alter our tournament a few times to get to make it happen.
Right.
But I remember one year when we were still at Snow Canyon on the 3 small fields, and it rained and rained and rained, and we worked all night. We tried putting diesel fuel on the fields and lighting it. We did everything.
You did?
I hadn't heard that one.
Finally, somebody said, "I wonder if we got a helicopter, if they could hover and dry those fields." And I knew that I couldn't ask permission, so I decided to
ask for forgiveness.
Ask for forgiveness later. And we hired a helicopter from the airport here in St. George, and he came down, and I made all the arrangements. This is the part that really bugs me, is I made all the arrangements, and Brad Hafen got to ride in the helicopter, and he's waving at us as we're standing around. But that helicopter came right down, I mean within 4 or 5 feet of the field, and actually moved around the diamond, and you could see the dirt change colors as it dried.
Wow!
From the prop on the helicopter.
Really?
It was incredible.
What a great story!
Yeah.
What a great memory!
There are still umpires that talk about that across the state today.
Wow. That's truly an amazing story. If you're just joining us, you're listening to the Huntsman World Senior Games Active Life, and we're visiting with Bill Given, softball aficionado. He's actually known here in southern Utah as Mr. Softball, and he's certainly earned that name after decades of involvement and commitment to the sport of softball. Let's talk, Bill, just a little bit about sports in general. And tell us your opinion. Do you feel like being actively engaged and involved in sporting events kind of acts as a fountain of youth, if you will, and helps keep people on the plane that they'd like to be on?
Absolutely. it's an abuse to our body sometimes, the activity. But what it does for the mind is absolutely incredible. After 25 years of being from the last time I bowled in the Huntsman World Senior Games, I'm bowling this year too.
Oh, wow.
And so I am really looking forward to that. And just the involvement, just the excitement of the involvement, it stimulates your mind and
it does.
your outlook on life.
It does, for sure. Now, Bill, I've known you for quite a while now, and I can't help but notice that you've shed a few pounds recently.
I absolutely have. I have lost over the last 8 months. I've lost 72 pounds.
72 pounds.
I know where about 15 of them went, and you can have them back.
Are you saying you picked them up, Jeff?
I certainly did.
I'm not interested in having them back. There's no finder's fee on that.
Well, this is this show is called The Active Life. Tell us how you did that. I mean, 72 pounds is significant. That's a big deal.
Well, I've gone on a program, and I don't know if I should.
Just tell us how you did it.
I joined a program called Unicity, and the products are used to not necessarily curb your appetite, because none of them do that, but the food value that's you receive is absolutely incredible. And I can tell you that I couldn't walk out to the end of the driveway and pick up the paper and come back without puffing and puffing before I started the diet.
Yeah.
Last Monday, for the first time, I did an hour's walk. And if anybody
Congratulations.
would have said, "Hey, Bill, let's go for an hour's walk," 8 months ago, I'd have said, "What are you smoking?"
You're crazy. You're crazy. Well, Bill, congratulations. You look great. You obviously you feel good.
I feel great.
So what a great journey and what a success story. That's pretty incredible. Just kind of as we're wrapping up here, you've talked about the helicopter experience, which I've heard you tell that story before, but what a great memory. If someone were on the bubble on whether or not they wanted to compete or participate in the Huntsman World Senior Games, and they're trying to decide, what would you tell them? What advice would you give somebody who's just thinking, should I, shouldn't I?
Don't hesitate. Do it. Don't hesitate. Just do it, and you'll be the better for doing it.
Across the board, any sport?
Well, I think any sport. Always, I lean towards softball, of course, but any sport. I'm just telling you, the things it does to your outlook on life completely changes you.
Well, that's fantastic, and we feel the same way about the games. It's a great event. As you know, Bill, and as we mentioned, it is the largest event of its kind in the whole world, and we just want to invite everyone, whether they're on the bubble or they're committed, to come out and be a part of it, because it's such a great thing. Any other favorite events, favorite things about the games?
No, except I've got to tell you this. In the 25 years, I've probably made some of the greatest friends that I've ever had in my life through softball and through the Huntsman World Senior Games. Friendships that will last the rest of my life.
And that is truly, the mission of the Huntsman World Senior Games has always been and continues to be and will always be to foster worldwide peace, health, and friendship. And we hear that all the time, the emphasis really on the friendship and how it's kind of becomes a family reunion when people come together. Every year they get together here at the games, here in St. George, and they get a chance to see each other, catch up on how they're doing. And it's an amazing, amazing feeling. So again, we make a special invitation to anybody out there who's on the bubble or otherwise to come and be a part of the games and experience that for themselves. Well, that's about all the time we have today. Bill, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to be with us.
Thank you, and thanks for making me a part of this.
Well, it's amazing, and thank you for the time and the effort that you've put into it. Don't forget to tune in next Thursday and every Thursday at 4:30 p.m. on the AM dial at 1450 or the FM dial at 96.7, and we'll continue to explore the active life. If you've missed any of the Active Life episodes, be sure to check out previous episodes right from our website, www.seniorgames.net. That's also where you can learn about the Huntsman World Senior Games, and if you're interested, you can register to compete as an athlete, just as Bill is registered to compete as a bowler this year. If you have any questions about the games or today's show, or if you have a suggestion for future shows, be sure to send us an email at activelife@seniorgames.net. That's activelife at seniorgames.net with everything spelled out. A closing thought for your day in honor of our guest, Bill Given. 4 bases, 3 strikes, 2 teams, 1 winner. Softball. It's not just a game, but a way of life. So until next Thursday, stay active.
Goodbye, everybody. See you later.